Hi everybody! In this video, we're going to be going over section 5 of our TSI booklet over geometry. Okay, so number 1, it says, what is the area of the triangle below? So remember the area of a triangle is equal to 1/2 base times height. So in this guy, the base is going to be square root 20 and the height is going to be square root 5. So I'm going to put that into my formula. So 1/2 square root 20 times square root 5. So when we're multiplying square roots, we're going to multiply the numbers on the inside. And if we had numbers on the outside, for example, like 2 square root 2 times 4 square root 5, we would multiply 4 times 2, and then we would multiply 2 times 5, so I would get 8 square root 10. So that's how we multiply square roots. In this case, we just have square roots that just have a number underneath. So I'm just going to multiply 20 times 5 to give me 100. And then simplifying the square root of 100, 10 times 10 gives me 100. So I'm going to say this is the same thing as 1/2 times 10, and half of 10 is equal to 5. So my answer choice here is 5. All right, number 2, if the length of a side of a square is 3a minus 2, what is the area of the square? So we know a square means that it has the same side, so 3a minus 2 and another 3a minus 2. A square's area is the same thing as length times width, or sometimes you'll see it side squared because they're the same. Either way works. So I'm going to multiply 3a minus 2 times another 3a minus 2. And then remember this one, we either need to FOIL or do the box method. So we're going to do our box. I'm going to put 3a minus 2 on top and on the side. 3a times 3a is 9a squared. This gives me negative 6a, another negative 6a, and a positive 4. I can combine my like terms. So I have 9a squared. Be careful here. Negative 6a plus another negative 6a is negative 12a plus 4. So my answer choice here is D. All right, on to number 3. There are 3x minus 2 trees planted in each row of a rectangular parcel of land. Whew, that's hard. If there are a total of 24x minus 6 trees planted in the parcel, how many rows of trees are there in the parcel? Okay, when I'm talking about word problems, I always like to draw. So I'm going to draw my picture here. So here's my rectangular parcel. They told me there are trees in this parcel of land, right? So they're asking for how many rows. So I'm not really sure how many rows, so I'm going to put that as my x. I'm not sure what that number is. In the rows, they told me there are 3x minus 2 trees. So I'm going to put 3x minus 2 up here to mean how many trees are in each row. And you know what? I'm going to choose a different variable for x. Let's choose this as r for row because I don't want to get it mixed up with this x. And then they told us that the total amount of trees is 24x minus 16. So when I'm talking about how many trees are inside, that's another way of saying the area. So they're telling me that the area is 24x minus 16. So if we remember, the area of a rectangle is length times width. So I'm going to kind of rewrite this. So the area, or 24x minus 16, is equal to my length times my width. So it doesn't matter which one. Usually when we just have a variable, that kind of goes in front. So I'm going to say that's my rows times the length, or the 3x minus 2. So I'm going to put these in parentheses. That way I know that I'm multiplying. So you have 2 different options here. Option number 1 is you can divide each side by 3x minus 2, and then you can do long division. We haven't covered long division, so I'm going to look at this another way. My question is, what could I multiply or distribute into this parenthesis in order for me to get a 24x and negative 16? So let's look. 3 times what number would give me 24? Well, 3 times 8 would give me 24, and I'm going to verify, does 2 times 8 give me negative 16? Yep, so that means if I were to replace r with the number 8 and I distribute it, it would in fact give me my total area of 24x minus 16. So I know my answer choice here is 8. I know this one is a little challenging, especially because we didn't learn how to divide, but we can always look at it another way. Division is the same thing as just seeing what I can multiply in to get that answer as well. Okay, next one here. we have a triangular shaped lakefront lot, and it has a perimeter of 1,800 feet. One side is 100 feet longer than the shortest side, while the third side is 200 feet longer than the shortest side. Find the length of all three sides. Oh my gosh. Okay, there's so much going on. So again, I am going to draw myself a picture. So here's a picture here. And remember, perimeter is adding up all the sides. So not area. Perimeter means adding up all the sides. So I'm going to put perimeter is 1,800. One side is 100 feet longer than the shortest side. We're not really sure what the shortest side is, so I'm going to go ahead and put that as S. They tell me that one side is 100 feet longer, so I'm like, okay, well, my shortest side plus 100 feet will give me 100 feet longer. And then it said the third side is 200 feet longer than the shortest side. Well, here's my shortest side plus 200 feet is how I'm going to write that. Well, I know perimeter is adding up all the sides, so I'm just going to combine my like terms here. So writing it all together, 1,800 is equal to S plus 200 plus S plus 100 plus S. So I just took all of these guys and wrote them together. Combining my like terms, I have 1, 2, 3 S's. So I'm going to combine those together. Plus 200 plus 300 is 300, and now I'm just solving to get S by itself. So I'm going to move over here. I'm going to subtract 300 on both sides. So that would give me 1,500 is equal to 3S. Divide each side by 3. So 500 is equal to S. So 500 is my shortest side. So once I have my shortest side, I can take that and I can plug it in here, and I can plug it in here. So this would give me 500 plus 200 would give me 700, and then 500 plus 100 would give me 600. So I need an answer choice that says 5, 6, and 7. So my answer choice here is D, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so that's the long way. The short way is you are going to make sure that all of these guys add up to 1,800, right? So if I were to add 500 plus 700 plus 800, that doesn't give me 1,800. So automatically I can rule that out. All the other ones will add up to 1,800. And then I'm going to look to make sure that every single one has two numbers that are 100 apart and 200 apart. So I'm looking at B and I'm like, well, in my equation or in my problem, it says one side is 100 feet longer than the other. Well, these are all the same. So I'm going to get rid of answer choice B. And actually, I'm going to get rid of answer choice C as well, because 100 and 500, that's 400 feet apart, not 100. So even if we didn't know how to do the long way, which obviously I want you guys to know how to do the long way. If you didn't know how to do the long way, a lot of times these questions, you can just look and get rid of answer choices that don't make sense by just looking and using your common sense to get rid of them. So we could have also just looked at our answer choices and got D. Okay. Looking at number 5, I'm going to clean this up a little bit here. Number 5 says a ladder is resting against a wall. The top of the ladder touches the wall at a height of 6 feet. How far away is the bottom of the ladder from the wall if the ladder is 10 feet long? Again, geometry questions, we need to draw a picture. So I'm going to draw my ladder. So here's my my little ladder here. It's against a wall, and then this is the length away from the ladder and the wall. So they tell us that the ladder hits it at a height of 6 feet. So this guy is 6 feet here. And then it tells me that the ladder itself is 10 feet. I know that the ground and the wall always makes a 90-degree angle. I see a right angle. It's asking me for side length. So that's a good indication. I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem, which says a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. The only side that matters here is the C. Remember, this is the hypotenuse, or the side opposite the 90-degree angle. So I'm going to label this side as C. The other ones you can label A and B. It doesn't matter which side is A or B. So I'm going to plug those into this formula. So A squared plus, here's my side length, 6 squared is equal to 10 squared. I'm going to square both of those. So a squared stays the same. 6 times 6 is 36. 10 times 10 is 100. Now we're just solving for a. So I'm going to subtract 36 on both sides. a squared is equal to 64. In order to undo a squared, I need to take the square root. So I'm going to square root both sides. They cancel on the left. A is equal to, technically, every time we take a square root, we need to put plus or minus 8. And then because we're talking about a word problem, I can't have a negative height. So my answer choice here is just going to be a positive 8. So when you have side lengths and they give you a right triangle, you are always going to use this formula. So if you want to take a second and write it down, this is a super, super helpful formula here. Okay, last two questions. All right. Number 6, it's kind of like the one where we can solve it mathematically, and then we can kind of look at our answer choices to see if we can solve it that way. So I'm going to show you both. So let's start with the long algebraic process first. So it says the length of a rectangle is 10 inches more than the width. If 5 inches are taken from the length and added to the width, the figure becomes a square and it gives us an area of 196. What are the dimensions of the original figure? Okay, again, draw a picture. So we started off with a rectangle. They told us that it has a length of 10 inches more than the width. I'm not sure what the width is, so I'm going to label width as W, and I'm going to say the length is equal to 10 inches more than the width, or W plus 10. So there's my original shape. Well, now let's do our new shape. They tell me that the area is 196, so I'm going to go ahead and label that first. They're taking 5 inches from the length. So here's my length. If we were to subtract 5 from here, 10 minus 5 is 5. So this turns into W plus 5 because I took away 5 here. Now it says, and it's adding the 5 to the width. So here for my width, I'm going to add 5. So this becomes W plus 5. They told me it's going to be a squared, and I can verify that that's true because the side lengths are now the same. Okay, so I'm going to set up a formula. We know that the area formula for a rectangle is length times width, or because it's a square, side squared, same thing. I'm going to set this up as W plus 5 times W plus 5, and it's equal to 196. When I have two parentheses, I'm going to do my box. So for sake of time, I'm just going to multiply this out. If we used our box, I would get W squared plus 10W plus 25, and it's equal to 196. Now I have a quadratic, right? Because I have a W squared. In order to solve quadratics, I need the equation to equal 0. So I'm going to move this 196 to the other side. And 25 minus 196 would give me negative 171. So I'm going to write that down here. Now that it's equal to 0, I can do my t-chart, find factors that multiply to negative 171 and add to a positive 10. 171 is kind of hard. It's not even, so none of my even numbers can divide. So I'm going to look for odd numbers. Remember the trick we talked about earlier? If you can add the numbers together, so 1 plus 7 plus 1 is 9. And if that number is divisible by 3, that means that you can divide that number by 3. So I'm going to divide by 3. You can always go in your calculator and do 171 divided by 2, divided by 3, divided by 4. So 171 divided by 3 gives me 57. Those wouldn't add to 10, so maybe I'll try 6. When I put 6 in, it gives me a decimal, so I'm like, nope, not going to use that one. Do the next one. 171 divided by 9 gives me 19, and I'm like, ooh, that's exciting, because I see that I could subtract these and get 10. Because we want a positive 10, I'm going to make the 9 negative. Bear with me, we're almost done. So now that I have my factors, I can use my shortcut because there's a 1 in front of the W squared. My shortcut says, write your variable, and then you're taking your numbers and just dropping them in from your t-chart, and then you're done. We're solving, so we need to take that additional step. So I'm going to set each parenthesis equal to 0 and solve for W. Well, W minus 9, when I set it equal to 0, add 9 to both sides. So W is equal to a positive 9. And here, subtract 19 on both sides. W is equal to a negative 19. We're talking about a word problem here, so I'm going to get rid of everything that is negative. So my answer here is going to be a positive 9. Okay, we have done lots of math, so I want to make sure that we're answering the question that they asked, and I didn't forget what they were asking. It says, what are the dimensions of the original figure? So I solved for W, so that's super fun because here's my variable. So W equal 9 is one of my answers. And then we also need to put it down here. W plus 10 would be 9 plus 10, which will give me 19. And I see that answer choice over here, 9 by 19. So I always like to check what the question is asking, because sometimes we get all the way down in our work, we find an answer, and then we just choose that answer. But sometimes it's asking for something different, and we need to take an additional step. So just, especially on the TSI, because when you click next, you can't go back, make sure you know what they're asking. Okay, there was the long way. I'm going to show you guys the shortcut method, or the way to use your answer choices. So if you need to take a break, I know that was long, take a break, pause, and then come back. Okay, so the way to use our answer choices is in the first sentence, it says the length of a regular rectangle is 10 inches more than the width. The question is asking for the original. So in our answer choices, we can get rid of everything that does not have a difference of 10. So 14 minus 4 is 10, so that's okay. Not 14 minus 9, that's not a difference of 10. So that answer choice is already out. And same thing here, 14 by 14, that answer choice is also out because there's not a difference of 10. One is not 10 inches more than the width. So already I have a 50-50 shot. Well, here's your other option. If we didn't want to do all this algebra, we could take answer choice A, and it tells me that we're taking 5 away from the length, and we're adding it to the width. So I'm going to take my length here, which is equal to 14, and I'm going to subtract 5, which is going to give me a new length of 9. And then my original width was 4, and I'm going to add the 5, which gives me 9. And then it tells me that my new area should be 196. Well, my area would be length times width. 9 times 9 is 81. That does not equal 196. So that means that A is not my answer either. I can do the same process with C. So I chose C. I know that it's correct so far because 19 minus 9 is 10. And they need to be 10 inches apart. I'm going to take the length, which is equal to 19. It said take away 5 from the length. So 19 minus 5 is 14. And then for my W, my width, I'm starting at 9. It says give that 5 inches to the width. So 9 plus 5 is 14. And if I find the area, 14 times 14 is 196. So I can also find my answer choice that way. I know that's a lot simpler. So if you want to use that method, please think smarter, not harder. But sometimes the answer choices will not always eliminate. So I want to show you guys the long way as well. Okay, guys, one more. So I'm going to erase the side. So if you need to pause before I erase it, go ahead. And we have one more left. Okay, so 7 says, find the length of the rectangular lot with a perimeter of 82 meters if the length is 5 meters more than the width. This is similar to how we solved the last one. So here we go. Perimeter, again, means adding up all of the sides. So 82 is my perimeter. And it says if the length is 5 meters more than the width. I do not know what the width is, so I'm going to put a W. 5 meters more would be W plus 5. And be careful here, they're not asking for the area, they're asking for the perimeter. So I'm going to relabel these sides, because remember the sides of a rectangular are the same, and then the widths are also the same. And then I'm just going to add all of these up together. So W plus W plus W plus W, I have 4 W's. 5 plus 5 is 10, and the perimeter is equal to 82. I'm solving for W, so minus 10. 4W is equal to 72. Divide by 4. So W is equal to 18. So I'm like, oh, cool. I see 18 as the answer choice. I'm going to circle it. And we would be wrong, because we always need to go back and check to make sure that we are answering the question that was asked. The question that was asked, it says find the length. Find the length. This was the width, so I'm almost done. I'm going to take the width and I'm going to plug it into my length formula, and I'm going to say 18 plus 5 actually gives me 23. So my answer choice is actually 23. Again, please, guys, make sure that you are rereading the question one more time before you submit your answer, and go on to make sure you answer the question that was already asked. Okay, I know this was a long one. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys have questions, come find me. If not, I will see y'all in the next one.